The California EPA is the only EPA in the United States to have its own EPA. It's different than the rest of the country, in large part because our air was so filthy back in the 1980s. The reason our pictures of our city in Los Angeles look different than the pictures of other cities like Beijing is in large part because of people like Dr. Ganguli, who will speak next.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I start by expressing my gratitude and my obeisance to Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba and to Dr. Narendranath Reddy for his kind offering to present this to you. I'm going to take you completely out of the normal medical fields that you have been exposed to with a presentation on the environment. This is not work environment, social environment, the environment you have with your kids. This environment existed before you had work, before you had kids, before mankind came. I'm talking about the natural environment. I have a number of things to cover, but I may not have time to do justice to all of them, so please bear with me. First of all, let's define what is environment that we have. Our environment is everything that's surrounding us, both natural and man-made. So we have living things, non-living things, we have things that we build, and we have other relationships and so forth that we talked about. But like I said, I'm going to talk about the natural environment. Now the relationship between man, nature, and God is very complex, very intricate, but it is integral to our health, our well-being, our social being, and everything else you have heard of throughout today. So the natural resources that we have are of two kinds. One is given by God, renewable, and one is non-renewable, and that can be depleted. So what are the environments? So the environment consists of the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, our climate around us, waste, soil, and many other things, food. We talked about just now the hurricane that Dr. Guntapulli mentioned to us before, and scientists believe that that is a direct result of climate change. We're going to talk about 4 topics today, and I'll do them in short order. Climate change, we'll talk about air pollution, then a little bit about the solutions and what the Sathya Sai International Organization, the organization founded by Swami, is doing to address all these 3 topics. Now, climate change is a term you may have heard before, so I will give you a little bit of 1-minute quick update on what is climate change. Climate change occurs because the radiation coming in from the sun gets reflected back from the surface, and some of it is absorbed right around the atmosphere. Without greenhouse gases, which are in the atmosphere on top, we could not live on Earth. Our temperature would be a very cold, freezing 18 degrees below zero. But our temperature actually is around 60 due to the greenhouse gases up there. Now, one of the problems we have is that we are altering the composition of the gases as existed on the Earth for millions of years. Those little molecules you see floating up there, the red and white, are molecules of carbon dioxide. And those are the ones that give us the climate that we have, this nice, warm, beautiful California sunshine, the Fiji climate, the climate in Australia, Europe, anywhere you have. But what we are doing slowly and steadily is increasing the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. This chart goes back to 500,000 years. We can extend that to 1,000,000 years. The amount of greenhouse gases you have has never exceeded about 350 parts per million. And now it is over 400, and it is expected to go up to about 500 to 1,000 ppm. So what is the result of all of this? The result of all of this is that carbon dioxide has increased about 40% in about 100 years. Now, what is 100 years in the history? In the history of the Earth or the history of climate, it's a blip. It's less than a second for a human being's lifetime. And due to that, the greenhouse gas composition being changing, there is a slow global warming on the Earth. In other words, we are all heating up. The biggest sources are our industrial activities and commercial activities. But the result, as shown on this slide, is that 15 of the 16 hottest years we have ever experienced since we started taking measurements have been since the year 2001, the last 15 years. And what is more alarming is that the last 2 years were the hottest years on history. As we go forward, the potential impacts of climate change are shown up here. You'll be facing food shortage, water shortage, displacement of people. In fact, the United Nations estimates there'll be 50 million refugees by 2050, driven from their homes, like in North Africa, like in India, like in other countries due to climate change, and a host of other activities that will always impact us as we go forward. Sathya Sai Baba had said long time ago that today, due to this pollution, mankind is getting affected. And what is important, he predicted the earthquakes, floods, and hurricanes that are coming here long time ago, back in 1990s. And he said that the only way we can correct this, and it is causing diseases like asthma, pneumonia, deafness, etc., is being kind to the environment. Let me switch from climate change to air pollution. This is a matter of life and death because we all need to breathe air. And I work for an agency for the government that clean the air in the Los Angeles area. Why is air quality important? Air quality is important among many reasons because of health effects. Air quality has been estimated just in Southern California, in this area, to cause about 5,000 premature mortality, as well as asthma, lower respiratory diseases, COPD, acute bronchitis, and even contribution to cancer. And the contribution to cancer is a lot alarming than we think of. One of the key markers of the pollution that causes cancer are diesel particulate matter, and the short-term effects are irritation of eye, nose, throat, coughing. But in long term, it not only causes cancer, but also premature death in people with heart-lung diseases, inflammation in the lungs, as well as impacts on newborns and in young children. Now going forward, we have had this fight in Los Angeles for a long time. This is a picture from 1955 showing the level of smog in downtown LA. And since I worked at the district, we have measured how the level of smog keeps coming down here. This is all over Southern California, about 10,000 square miles. These are the number of bad air quality days, or the days we had bad smog. And back in the 1970s, the days were about 2/3 in the year, and now they're close to zero by any kind of measurement you take. Globally, if you go back and look at the global, you'll notice that air pollution, which is diesel, which is the particulate matter here, and ozone, is ranked one of the top in terms of global burden. If you do a map of the world, then you'll notice that two of the countries where there are a lot more death than in any other countries are India and China. And the developing countries here are in between. In the United States, it's not that much because of our environmental cases. And here is a chart showing the number of deaths that are directly attributable to fine particulate matter in 2015. These charts are updated from time to time, and while India and China are getting worse and worse, as well as the developing countries, the United States and other portions of the world are getting cleaner. So there are many solutions to this, and I'll just touch on a few of them. But first, let's remember, there's no place like home, and we have to do our part. And what is that we are doing? First, we have to admit that climate change and pollution is everyone's problem. So no single government scientist can fix it. So we have to change our lifestyle and do things together. Here are some mitigation measures. More efficient use of energy, greater use of low carbon, no carbon energy, and some other new activities. In particular, things like driving fuel-efficient cars, reducing your car use, maybe taking public transportation, using energy efficiency in buildings, and some other things for electricity generation, reduce your carbon footprint and therefore less of greenhouse gases. What is interesting is that Swami has talked about this at length for many, many decades. And if you go back and search, you'll find there are two complete books of his discourses on the effects of the climate and how we can live with it. And I'll read only one of these quotes here. On account of the stupendous temperature of the core of the sun, he told us that you can actually extract the energy that is coming into the earth and use it for peaceful purposes rather than try to pollute the air by using coal, oil, and some of the other resources. A couple of years ago, I came across this slide, which I'm sharing with you. This is the amount of energy that comes in from the sun any given time compared to what is in the earth right now. And 1% of this, of energy, is enough to supply the entire energy need of the earth, all electricity, all fuels, and everything we use for an entire year. And that is leading to greater wind power usage, greater usage of solar energy. This is a particular project in Chile that's generating about 100 megawatts of power. And conservation of electricity, things that we can do very quickly, like reduction of waste, are things that are happening around the world. Now, what is the Satyasai organization doing about this? Well, the young adults in our organization took the lead, and I'm happy to tell you that they have done quite a bit, like starting to reduce the usage of plastics. And these programs are going around to nearly 2,000 Satyasai centers and groups around the world that we have through about 120 countries. A new committee has been formed by the Prashanti Council under Dr. Reddy's leadership, and I'm the co-chair of that. And we are going to continue to do this not only for reduction of plastics, but community cleanups. And these are pictures from USA, Hungary, Czech Republic, Lithuania, Australia, New Zealand. If you go on our websites in satyasai.org, and then the Sai Universe website, satyasai.org.saiuniverse.org, you'll see all of these projects described in detail. There are some long-term projects here shown on this particular slide. The environmental committee that we have is trying to take Swami's message of spirituality and protection of environment into practical terms. And we are developing different projects to go forward, provide awareness, information. You cannot adjust without understanding the problem. The first comes the awareness and the knowledge, and then you can adjust, and then you can take action. So our first step to inform. A Go Green conference is being arranged in July 2018 in Prashanti Nilayam, and it is based on Swami's principle of be, do, tell. So first, we experience God in nature, spiritual unity. We'll talk about that. Then we'll focus on facts, tips, sharing of experiences within the organization globally. Perhaps a service project in the local community. And then we share this information and public practices at our public meetings projects, which is a part of our public outreach. And then we'll also have exhibition. You're all invited to come to this particular conference in July and share some of your thoughts. And with that, thank you very much for giving me a chance to talk.